which will soon be taken over by the industrial complex. But I pray for them, and I thank the brothers and sisters that are holding on. And I thank you all for sending what y'all sent to help. We're going to do what we can, but it's bad. And now that I see how the politicians are betraying our brothers and sisters who are living under disastrous circumstances and continue to do so, like Haiti, like what's going on in Jamaica. Now I understand explicitly. I understand why the last couple of years or the last decade or so, Judah here in America has been Obamaized. What do I mean by Obamanized? Obamanized is the word. Using a face, a black face from people someplace else to dictate policy that leads to massacres here amongst our people. I'm going to tell you, it's all in scripture. And it's being celebrated this time of year. And I'm going to tie it all together for you all. Now I'm understanding more so than anything why they've brought in Haitian politicians, Jamaican politicians, and put them into key areas of influence, being Obamanized on the local level, the state level, so that we can be betrayed and destroyed like these same politicians have destroyed their own people in the areas or in the countries they came from. And I'm not pulling no punches. Hence the reason why, even though I'm not feeling too well today, I thought I would come on to show you that there's a common thread between what I'm talking about right now and Thanksgiving. Excuse me. Bear with me. Now I see why Africa cannot rise, why Jamaica cannot rise, why Haiti cannot rise. Now I see. And brothers and sisters, I believe we should have put our eye on this a long time ago, especially here in the Americas. They tricked us. They put Obama in front of us, being from someplace else, when he couldn't do, him and his father couldn't get Kenya together. So how can that man be in position to represent us? I'm surprised we didn't see this when it was happening. I mean, I think that we were so enamored with seeing a black face, believing that there was some level of representation in high place that would stand for us. See, but I told people from the beginning what it is. You cannot trust these people. So what they did in the United States was what? Obamanized all of the high positions using sleazy politicians from other countries. Every infiltration of our people have happened exactly like that. And I'm going to talk about it in a couple of moments. First and foremost, I would like to say all praises be to the Most High, Ahaya, in the name of Yeshua through the Rawak, for another opportunity to come before you, brothers and sisters. I'm Elder Ricard Shar, the Gathered of Christ Church. And here, let's jump right in. Let's jump right in. Before jumping in, I would be amiss if I didn't announce the fact that we are embarking on a new Hebrew and Bible Academy that will begin December 14th, 2025. Okay, December 14th, 2025. The theme will be for the next academy, Hope Beyond reside. And we're going to show you that. artificial intelligence technology, and the days of Noah. Go to history, go to history, and gifts for the first. There's nothing new under the sun. All about November and December. Well, we're going to cut the chase. Let's cut the chase. There's nothing new under the sun. This time of year between November and December, which is no coincidence to be a part of or the time of the Feast of Dedication, or what Jewish people call Hanukkah, is when the Gentile nations led by Esau, this is when they politically roll out massacres against the children of Israel. Thanksgiving is a celebration for pagans who have sacrificed the children of Israel. Sometimes I like to get outside media pieces from the outside of America, because America's media is usually dumbed down, censored, and controlled. To be honest with you, I learned this when I was outside the country, that American citizens are the most ill-informed, ignorant people within the world when it comes to geopolitical politics. And it's no fault of the people. It's just that real information is censored from the masses. This is how they control so many people. This is how you can control 300 million people. By keeping them ignorant to what's really going on in the world. Knowing that if the people in America understood, they would stand up against injustices and join together against the industrial satanic complex. So I don't blame our people for being ignorant. We just don't know. Even the Bible states that my people, God said, Hosea 4:6, are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. Okay? Are destroyed. Jumping right in. So that's why I thank the Most High who gave us an opportunity to travel through the earth, so I could figure out, first and foremost, to confirm everything in the Bible is true concerning archaeology, history. So you can only convince people in America that the Bible is a fairy tale and that the Bible should be questioned, or whether or not God could be questioned. You can only do that here in America because America is so ignorant when it comes to history, being censored and controlled. But I digress. When you go outside of American censorship, you can read where they're willing to talk about what our people are ignorantly celebrating here in America called Thanksgiving. This piece was published in 2017. Thanksgiving, the annual genocide whitewash. Americans continue celebrating a holiday that whitewashed the mass killing of millions of Native Americans. It so happens these Native Americans were and are from the tribe of Gad, written of in Scripture, the North American Indians. That's what they celebrate in the massacre. Well, this massacre, this time of year, has history, and I'm going to show you. When I was a school child in the United States a couple of short decades ago, I spent time acquiring life skills ranging from how to fake a wrist fracture in order to obtain a purple cast to how to craft a TP replica out of paper bag. The latter was perfected in accordance with the holiday of Thanksgiving. of Thanksgiving. To TP replication required by classmates and to mass produce turkey drawings, paper pilgrim hats, and modified feather headdresses. Right? It's called programming. Social engineering people into accepting massacres. The Western world, satanic synagogue of Satan educational system is good for that. These materials were then incorporated into our reenactments of the original Thanksgiving feast. The mythologized gastronomic encounter of 1621 between pilgrims and Native Americans that now serves as a cornerstone of the fairy tale version of U.S. history. Well, on the surface, it may seem that there's not much to criticize about a holiday based on gratitude and eating, especially when it's accompanied by absurd spectacles like the presidential turkey pardon, like we see here. Right? But let's get down to the nitty gritty. What really was it about? Well, by 1637, writes Massachusetts Bay Colony Governor John Winthrop, was proclaiming a thanksgiving for the successful massacre of hundreds of Pequot Indian men. Now, folks, the Pequot Indian were Negroid, black, looking just like me. I have an aunt on my father's side, Aunt Annie, who was from this same tribe. Dark just like me, nose just like I have, and she had long, pretty hair braided in two plaits coming down like this. So what Esau did was he began through time for new children grown out of Gadites or born out of Gadites. The hospitals began to put them on the rolls as Negroid, blacks, so to disconnect them from the land that was stolen from our forefathers here. So Negroids, Judah isn't the only blacks here, folks. There's a lot of us mixed amongst Judah who've been placed under Negroid so that Esau could bring in his own people to steal the land, to continue to steal the land that belonged to the children of Israel, the indigenous people here. The Pequot Indian men, women, and children, a bloody pattern that would repeat itself across the continent between 90 to 95%, 95 to 9.99% of American Indians had been exterminated. Had been exterminated. Bear with me. The work of historian Roxanne Dunbar Ortiz, author of An Indigenous Peoples History of the United States, serves up plenty additional food for thought. Thanksgiving perhaps shouldn't inspire too many warm and fuzzy feelings. See that? Right? That's what's getting celebrated right now, the sacrifice that's usually perpetrated this time of year. going way back to a time we're celebrating now when they began to massacre our people in Jerusalem in the 2nd century. Hence the reason why we're celebrating the Feast of Dedication this week. Thanksgiving is a way in which the Satanists can still the spirit and memory of what happened to us as a celebration for sacrifice that benefited them. That's what this is all about. To take all the energy that comes with this time of year, not to celebrate our people, remembering a massacre that was done by them, but for the Gentiles to celebrate and worship the God that allowed them, that have taken on that spirit of sacrificing the children of Israel. That's what it's about. To give their God the honor for sacrificing us. To steal that power that should be with the history that we forgot. That forgotten history that goes way back to the Greeks. Thanksgiving is just a continuation of that same massacre. What am I talking about? Well, let's go into it. I'm going to show you how we tie it into what's going on today. The politicians and the preachers are all complicit with government to push these pagan Hellenistic ideologies that leads to the destruction of God's people each year. This same particular model comes out of ancient Greece by this wicked Edomite by the name of Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus Epiphanes. Now let's talk about it. When you go into the Bible, let's go there. When you go into the Bible, the first Maccabees, the first chapter, and I'm going to show you how it all makes sense to why they have us celebrating Thanksgiving now. Well, they're celebrating the massacre of the North American Indians when the Edomites came here, the same way they set up a massacre during the time of the Maccabees. Same political program that would destroy our people. Lawyer is so considerate. He asked, "You sure you want me to come in and preserve your voice?" I'm like, "I got it. Don't worry about it. Thank you, but no thanks. I can handle it. I'm not going to be here long. The Spirit is on me to drop this, and I need to just drop it. All right? Thank you, lawyer." Let's go to the Apocrypha real quick. Let's go there. Antiochus Epiphanes. Now, Antiochus, he died around 164 BC. Right? 164 BC, 2nd century. Well, he was the wicked one, the Antichrist spirit that would set policy for the last empires that would come, who would come subsequent or after him. Okay? He would set the policy. So when they talk about an antichrist, it's not talking about one man popping up at the end. It's talking about an ideology that came from this wicked, satanic man that would lead to the total decimation and desolation of God's people. Right? So let's read about it. Let's read about it starting at the 10th verse. And I'm going to show you that there's a connection between this Thanksgiving and the programs they rolled out to actually get our people to take the jabby jab. That there's a connection. Using the same blueprint. Now, the reason why I'm showing this, so that anybody with their right mind who can put two and two together in the future, they won't fall for their own demise like our people ignorantly did a few years ago when they gave up our people for sacrifice at this same time of year. And there came out of them a wicked root. It's talking about out of Greek. These are Edomites, folks. Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome. Then he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Okay? Let's go in. In those days went there out of Israel. Look at this. Let me get it. Our people now. In those days went out of Israel wicked men. These are Israelites. Who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make an agreement, a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So these are your politicians today and your preachers today. They're the ones who will convince the citizenry that it's okay to follow the model of Antiochus Epiphanes, the spirit of Antichrist. Let's show you how they do it. So Esau, Antiochus, could not have accomplished this massacre unless our people politically would be on board to execute and roll out his policy. It's like having an Obama in position. It's like having someone from the AME church who's a Freemason with influence over our people every 4 years, convincing us to vote Democrat and all these others. We don't even realize this is the same game that started with Antiochus. Preachers and politicians, here they are, sellouts. Let's read it. And in those days went out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen. Right? So listen to this. So it was their idea, brothers and sisters. They went to the heathen and say, listen, don't worry about our people pushing back. Give us money and position, and will convince them to get on board, will convince them to come on board against their God. So this device pleased them well. Then certain of the people were so froward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. See? So the enemy didn't have to come in. They would just pay sellouts amongst our people who would sell the people to the government to be destroyed. Nothing new under the sun. So what is the overarching ideology of Antiochus Epiphanes? They went in, convinced our people to stop following God. Therefore, our people were no longer protected by that God, which now allows the Gentiles to come in with their armies to totally pillage and destroy our temple, and even the people who's guarding the temple. That's the plan, right? So let's read it. Antiochus said what? Let me get it. Let me get it here. Let me get it here. Bear with me. Bear with me here, folks. So, going back to Maccabees, the first chapter. So here's the overarching plan that they would like to accomplish. The sellouts as well as the governments. Let me read it. Let me read it here. Listen to this. "36. For it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, an evil adversary to Israel." Our people in the neighborhoods, in the ghetto, are the Israelites, folks. It's the same plan against our people. "Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers." Folks, bringing in immigrants. "Kill the people and replace them with people from other places." It happened back then in the 2nd century under Antiochus. The governments of the earth are doing the same thing again. Here's the Antiochus Antichrist plan. You don't have to wait for one Antichrist. The government officials in place are executing the Antichrist plan of Antiochus Epiphanes. You kill the people, and then you replace the people with strangers, and became strange to those that were born her, and her own children left her. Her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning like Thanksgiving. Her Sabbaths into the reproach of her honor, into contempt. That means instead of us upholding God's law in the Bible, we would look at those holy days in the Bible as something to hate or to have contempt against. while upholding Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter, Christmas. Same script. As had her glory and so was her honor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. This is why our people are so sad today. We've been destroyed by this same policy. 41, moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. Now, if you're going to be down with Greeks or the Romans, then you have to become a Greek or a Roman. You must celebrate the holidays, the holy days of the Greeks and Romans. So when you see Jewish people today claiming they're celebrating Hanukkah, nah, they're not celebrating Hanukkah, folks. We're in the week of Hanukkah, and there's no Jewish people anywhere celebrating. They're the same Greeks and Romans who are celebrating the massacre of Antiochus Epiphanes under the guise that it's under the Feast of Lights. We're in the week of the feast. The same week they're having Thanksgiving. So here's Antiochus' plan. Everybody must be on one accord to be one people. That means you put politicians in place.
Listen to the video.
Who push the policies of the government to have the whole world on board, to have their constituencies on board with this satanic program of worshiping the lesser gods. So how do you do it? You set up and incentivize preachers and politicians. The same model we seen back during the time of Antiochus. And where they'll shame you if you decide not to deal with it. They'll try to shame you if you say, no, I want to follow Sabbath. I want to follow God's law. They'll shame you and call you a cult. With what I'm reading here, this is the cult. Right? Moreover, King Antiochus wrote that his kingdom, his whole kingdom, should be one people. And that what? How would they accomplish this? They will accomplish this by doing this. And everyone should leave his laws, the laws written of in the Torah. So all the heathen have agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to this religion, to celebrate pagan days instead of the Lord's high holy days, and sacrifice idols and profane the Sabbath. This model is directly from the playbook of Esau, Antiochus Epiphanes, the spirit of Antichrist. So what does that have to do with Thanksgiving? Well, that massacre that they planned, the massacre they planned for Thanksgiving in 1641 is at the same time they did a massacre against Jerusalem in the 2nd century under Antiochus. And it was to do the same thing. Same plan. To break the North American Indians from the customs of our forefathers that they were actually dealing with before colonization. And to teach the North American Indians to become pagans, to worship the new Roman way, just like our people were persuaded back then to follow the Greek, then Roman way. Hence the reason why you see the influential people amongst our families here in America who initiate themselves into fraternities and pledge to the Greek fraternities. These are Hellenists, Hellenized sellouts who would agree to get in high positions and through their influence and power convince us to stay under the power of Satan through defying the God of Israel, breaking God's law, and what? At the same time, encouraging our people to uphold their satanic holidays like Thanksgiving. When we celebrate Thanksgiving, we're celebrating the massacre, not just of the North American Indians, but the tribe of Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, who was massacred in the 2nd century BC. We're in a week where we're celebrating what? Where we begin to fight against that spirit, cleanse the temple, to set our temple up again so our people could worship in spirit and in truth without outside influence. That's what this week is celebrated for. Not to celebrate, to thank God for letting the Gentiles come over and massacre our people. Hold tight. I'm going to tie it into our modern day politicians in one moment. God's people. To incentivize, right? So jumping right in. So now we understand the model that came through Antiochus Epiphanes to incentivize our people to sell out our God, to open the door for a massacre against God's people. It's deeper than the North American Indians, folks. It's way broader than this. Way broader. All over the earth, they celebrate a massacre against our people at the same time of year, and none of us have put two and two together. It's not just they were celebrating massacres of our people at this same time of year before they settled here in the Americas. Right? So let's go into our politicians, our preachers. I said earlier that one of the biggest issues we have in the United States is that we've been Obamanized. What do I mean Obamanized? They tricked us by putting a black face from some other place in high position of influence. And they use that model now all over America to bring in others from other countries who look like us, who would set policy to undermine and destroy us. Why? Because the synagogue of Satan had an issue. The issue is, yes, we the minority, being Judah here in America, but we're the only people being the minority throughout history who stood up against Esau and won. Well, I'll tell you what, the whole economy of the world shuts down if you don't do some get right. We never capitulated. We never compromised. And because of that courage the Most High gave us back, they had to undermine, to take this spirit from us by using others who were already compromised. And it's not to say that all of our politicians who were black, who represented us before the immigration, is not to say that they weren't compromised to some degree. A lot of them were. But here's the difference. They grew up from amongst us. And they knew that if they did something wrong in those seats, that they and their family, who all of us knew, would have to deal with the consequences of them misrepresenting us. So they still had to do something right to show that they were for us in those compromised positions. Or it was a threat to the family who was within our neighborhoods. You weren't going to use our vote and totally ignore us if we put you in position coming and you lived around us and have suffered the same as we've suffered through Jim Crow, that we've suffered through chattel slavery, these politicians wouldn't have made it. Their families would have been threatened and all of that back then, because we come from a long line of people who know one another and grew up with one another. So Esau seen this, that yes, Judah in America is compromised, but they're compromised to a certain degree. These politicians we're putting in place, they're going to stand for their people at some level. We need to bring in outsiders and put them in position of influence. And they did this. Obama was the model. Being from Kenya. So when they seen how great that worked, they did the do. Brought in strangers like we've just read in the book of Maccabees. Now, the Bible tells us about these leaders. Look at this. The Bible tells us about these leaders. It states about Israel's irresponsible leaders. All ye beasts of the field, come to devour, yea, all ye beasts in the forest. His watchmen are blind. When it says watchmen, it's talking about the politicians whom we trusted, believing that, well, at least they're not Republicans, so these people are in our corner. The watchmen we put in place and say, well, at least we got a black person who can represent and help us. But the Bible says these watchmen are blind. They are ignorant. They are all dumb dogs. That's what the Bible calls them. They are dumb dogs. They cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving to slumber. Yea, they are greedy dogs. And guess what? Our people, the liberal whites, know the greedy dogs that are amongst us who are willing to sell us out. And they are handpicked for the political and religious positions. I'm going to tell you right now, for decades, they have seen how the politicians of Jamaica, Haiti, Africa have sold out their own people. And they are the majority population there. Esau looked at that and said, you know what? If they sell out their own people to allow for me to stay in power, Esau is saying, the white man is saying, why don't I get a few of them and groom them to do the same thing here in the United States so that they don't have no emotional ties to Judah, who's standing for everyone. Let me put a Haitian in place, who all that they're there for is to sell out Judah because they sold out their own people. And I'm calling it out. Because I'm going to tell you, Judah, we aren't like that. Christ was calling out, the Most High was calling out our people. Judah's not like that. If Judah go to Africa, if Judah go to Jamaica, if Judah go to England, where a lot of our Benjamites are, if Judah go to Haiti, you know what we do? We get behind the people. We celebrate their accomplishments. We don't look down on them. We suffer with them. We know their pain. And it drives us to lead our people out of this. We don't come into Jamaica. We don't come into Haiti or Africa and try to change policy and undermine the people there. We're not like that. So I'm going to show you the game of Antiochus Epiphanes so that our people can start looking at what's really going on and hold the tribes of Israel to task. Because the white man could not have done this unless there were some sellouts who was willing to come in and undermine us. But no one pointed out. We were just happy to see a black face in front of us, not knowing who these people were and how they were politically compromised from the countries they came from. So, but no one pointed out the ignorance would continue and our people continue to get destroyed, with them putting a black face in front of us to deceive us. Right? Excuse me. I'm getting over something. See? I'm going to tell y'all, folks, and like I said for years, that's why even Marion Barry, who was in D.C. when I was coming up, the mayor of Washington, D.C., you know why they hated him, why they wanted to call him a crackhead and all that? Because he was in a position standing for our people. Yeah, he was doing drugs, but so was a lot of these politicians are allegedly doing drugs. But you would see Marion Barry, the mayor, in City Hall fighting against these other races of people who were trying to undermine us. Right? One moment. In City Hall, and they were showing it on the news where they were turning over furniture when others tried to come in and undermine us, when they was trying to give money to Arabs and all that and cut our people out who championed civil rights. I remember that. The Street Brothers, John Street, Milton Street, lived one block from where I grew up. It was like, no Arab's going to come over here and get a part of the civil rights money we went for. He said, no, y'all can stay vendors, but y'all don't have no atrocities on this land. Y'all don't represent us. I remember that. But we've been Obamanized. Right? So they say, listen, we got to get Judah out of the way. Same time Judah is standing up as politicians for his people, you got them on the corner saying that they're the Jews, and eventually they're going to wake up the whole world if we don't switch this up. And no sooner as that happened, the immigration policy through Barack Obama would bring in the replacements that would utterly decimate and destroy the only voice that was standing for God's people in the earth. Esau cannot do this without sellouts. So let's talk about it. So now let's talk about it. Look at this. Let's now view the time of year. Bear with me. Let's deal with the time of year now. Right? When did Antiochus Epiphanes What time of the year were they planning our massacre of the temple? It was December. Between November and December, folks, is when they roll out their massacres against the temple. Between November and December. Check it out. Right? And which is celebrated Hanukkah when we fought against them 3 years after they destroyed the temple. Right? Now, look at this. 3 years, December. Well, check this out, folks. When did they roll out? When did they roll out the stuff they wanted to give to our people when they shut the whole earth down? When did they roll that out? Look at this. They rolled it out December 8th. Same time of the massacre of Antiochus Epiphanes. You notice we're at the end of the month, November going into December. Same time of year is when they rolled out Operation Warp Speed Summit, where he held the shot's development as a miracle. Right? Right? As he held as a miracle. What else happened? Look. Let me show you. As he held as a miracle. It's the same time. From that, they continued it into January. Right? Hold on, this mouse ain't working. Let me grab it. 1 second. As you can see, it says right here, and it says the first Pfizer Jimmy Jams were granted emergency authorization in December 2020. Let's talk about massacres here, folks. Fair use. Listen to this. Fair use. Fair use. Fair use. We need some headphones. 1 moment. Fair use. Fair use. I'm not saying anything. I'm going to let them tell you. Happy holidays, right? Listen to this.
Well, you'd be right, according to ex-Pfizer executive Dr. Michael Yaden. Again, these aren't my words, although I agree with him.
Let's hit it.
How many of you believe there was no pandemic at all? Well, you'd be right, according to ex-Pfizer executive Dr. Michael Yaden. Again, these aren't my words, although I agree with him. Just to be clear, YouTube censors. These are the words of an ex-Pfizer executive who says there was no pandemic at all. Dr. Michael Yaden. Now, he says there's
fair
no
use,
pandemic,
fair use.
and the lie was maintained in order to inject 5.5 billion people with what he says was an intentionally dangerous substance, 17 million
Yep.
of whom have died so far, he says, after having received it. Watch.
There has not been a pandemic. Dennis Rancourt's data shows that the all-cause mortality evidence data did not increase at all in the run-up to the declaration fraudulently by WHO of a pandemic. There is no public health emergency except that created by our governments.
Well, I'm going to leave it there until our Patreon.
Yep.
But why am I
Don't want to get freaking striked or whatever.
going there? Well, let's bring it up to the modern day time of Antiochus Epiphanes. As you can see, a lot of information is coming out that they wouldn't allow us to talk about when it happened. Was this a part of a massacre plan to get rid of our people, only to bring in strangers like we read about in the book of Maccabees? Well, they can only do it if they use our people, who's willing to undermine us. And that leads us to who? The others who came in to undermine us politically. Fair use.
Welcome back, everyone, here to Live Now from Fox. We continue to bring you some of the day's biggest top stories and headlines. We do have some breaking news that we want to bring to you regarding a member of Congress. We are learning from South Florida tonight. U.S. Rep. Sheila Sherfless McCormick of Florida has been indicted on charges accusing her of stealing $5 million in federal disaster funds and using some of the money to aid her 2021 campaign, the Justice Department said today. The Democrat is accused of stealing a federal emergency management agency overpayments that her family healthcare company and received through a federally funded COVID-19 vaccination staffing contract. Federal prosecutors said a portion of the money was then funneled to support her campaign.
Hold up now. So where did she get this money from? What did he say? A COVID vaccination project that she would spearhead to get our people in the neighborhoods injected? Did they get someone who was from someplace else in a position to get the citizens of America, black people, vaccinated so that they can financially grandize themselves? Now I see why Haiti, Jamaica, and Africa, they stay in the same state, even though, folks, they're the majority population. Here are their politicians. And I'm glad it's being highlighted right now so our people can start asking questions. Who's out there seeking and who are joining themselves with the enemy in an effort to massacre our people? Let's hear it again.
See overpayments that her family healthcare company and received through a federally funded COVID-19 vaccination staffing contract, federal prosecutors said. A portion of the money was then funneled to support her.
Hold up. He said a COVID-19 vaccination staffing project, which means her company, her being a representative, created a company that would staff people to convince and go out and convince and initiate our people getting vaccinated in the areas she represented. She put in the contract for a money grab. And now they're throwing her to the wolves Because guess what? Mission accomplished. They don't need her anymore. They accomplished it. Look at all the people we lost during that so-called pandemic of our loved ones. Not realizing it was people from others who had contracts who was willing to financially aggrandize themselves off of the death of our people like they would do in Haiti, Jamaica, and Africa. I hope y'all see this. We calling it out. Since they don't want to call it out, we're calling it out.
Campaign through candidate contributions, prosecutors allege. Using disaster relief funds for self-enrichment is a particularly selfish, cynical crime, the Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a statement. No one is above the law, least of all powerful people who rob taxpayers for personal gain. We will follow through the facts in this case and deliver justice. A phone message left at McCormick's Washington office was not immediately returned. But again, we will be keeping an eye on this for you right here on Live Now from Fox. You saw the report there from the New York Post there as the Democratic Florida lawmaker that has been indicted. Bill Melugin, our very own Bill Melugin of Fox News, saying this.
Let's slow walk this. Breaking. Department of Justice. Congresswoman Sheila Sherfilis McCormick. This is a Levite that they put in position in Florida with stealing $5 million in FEMA funds, laundering the proceeds, and then using the money to support her 2021 congressional campaign so that now she can get more grubby finances, using a political position that she had nothing to do. There's no blood in the ground for her in this country. So that she can sell our people out. Our people better wake up. And I know a lot of Levites who would never act as such. But Esau understand what people to pick from amongst every nation our people are under to keep the Israelite population, Judah, Benjamin, and Levi, under control. And I told y'all years ago, they're going to throw all of their sellouts under the bus. I told you. They knew what she was doing. She wasn't doing anything other than what those white liberals was directing her because they was doing it. Why do you think Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen DeGeneres and others have left the country? She was doing the same thing she's seen these white liberals doing, but they're going to throw her under the bus. And you know what? Good for her. Good. She get everything she deserves. That's right. You lay down with dogs, you get fleas. There should be no support for how she betrayed. And now through this, we've lost many of our riders who would stand for our people in the last days because of sellouts like this. Straight up. Let's hear it again. We're going to hear the whole thing out. Fair use.
Welcome back, everyone, here to Live Now from Fox. We continue to bring you some of the day's biggest top stories and headlines. We do have some breaking news that we want to bring to you regarding a member of Congress. We are learning from South Florida tonight. U.S.
Oh, yeah, I'm a little bit under the weather, but I'll be good. I'll be good before I leave for December. I got some tea here, but listen. Right now, I'm a little under the weather, but I had to come out because this was really burning me on this so-called Thanksgiving to see that the same time of year, they had another massacre planned against our people using sellouts like it was during Antiochus Epiphanes. I'm here to show people how they do it, what they utilize. A black face, and we got to start asking, where do these people come from? And if they was beneficial as politicians or preachers or whatever the case is, why couldn't they benefit the people they came out of and the countries they came from? They sneak in up under us, acting like us, to undermine and to kill the only voice who would stand for even her people. Hope our people wake up, man. Fair use.
Welcome back, everyone, here to Live Now from Fox. We continue to bring you some of the day's biggest top stories and headlines. We do have some breaking news that we want to bring to you regarding a member of Congress. We are learning from South Florida tonight. U.S. Rep. Sheila Sherfullis McCormick of Florida has been indicted on charges accusing her of stealing $5 million in federal disaster funds and using some of the money to aid her 2021 campaign, the Justice Department said today. The Democrat is accused of stealing a federal emergency management agency overpayments that her family healthcare company and received through a federally funded COVID-19 vaccination staffing contract, federal prosecutors said. A portion of the money was then funneled to support her campaign through candidate contributions, prosecutors allege. Using disaster relief funds for self-enrichment is a particularly selfish, cynical crime, the Attorney General Pam Bondi said in a statement. No one is above the law, least of all powerful people who rob taxpayers for personal gain. We will follow through the facts in this case and deliver justice. A phone message left at McCormick's Washington office was not immediately returned. But again, we will be keeping an eye on this for you right here on Live Now from Fox. You saw the report there from the New York Post there as the Democratic Florida lawmaker that has been indicted. Bill Melugin, our very own Bill Melugin of Fox News, saying this on X with the breaker. DOJ charges Congresswoman Sheila Sherfullis McCormick, a Democrat from Florida, with stealing $5 million in FEMA funds, laundering the proceeds, and then using the money to support her 2021 congressional campaign. She faces up to 53 years in prison.
53 years.
Convicted. So we will be keeping an eye on this for you. Bill Melugin then puts on X as well. According to the indictment, DOJ says Sherfullis McCormick, who's 46, and her brother Edwin Sherfullis, 51, both of Miramar, worked through their family health care company on a FEMA-funded COVID-19 vaccination staffing contract back in 2021. In July of that year, the company received an overpayment of $5 million in FEMA funds. So that indictment just coming down by a DOJ earlier today. The Attorney General Pam Bondi again is saying in a statement, no one is above the law, least of all powerful people who rob taxpayers for personal gain. We will follow the facts in this case and deliver justice. No reminder.
That's what you get for selling out God's people. We're coming near the end. None of them gets away now. They don't realize this woman and others are complicit with the massacre of our people. It was a ritual to celebrate the destruction of our people at the same time between mid-November and December, like they did during the time of the Greeks when they destroyed our temple and brought in strangers. Well, it's people like this who's used, they bring from other places to destroy us politically, to get rid of us, put them in the healthcare system and all that to get rid of us so that the replacements can come in and destroy our children. And the Bible talks about people like this. And I'm glad we are waking up. We should have been understood the Obama model was to undermine any people who would stand for God's people at the very end. Bringing in a person from somewhere else to undermine us, not understanding our struggle and everything we did to fight for justice, not just for us here, but for our people everywhere. Same massacre, a different tactic. And what is the plan? Let's get it again. And then I'll open up the lines. The plan is written in the book of Maccabees, out of the Bible. Another reason why they don't want you reading the Apocrypha. Maccabees 1 and 10. And there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, Edomite, who had been a hostage at Rome. And he reigned in the 137th year, of the kingdom of the Greeks. Right? Then it says, here's your politicians. This is why Africa, Jamaica, and all the countries cannot rise against injustices, because they always have a sellout in position that they would incentivize themselves to keep their own people poor. And that's the model they try to use against us. They couldn't use that model here in the United States initially, because all of us came out of chattel slavery together and we were sticking together during segregation. So there's going to be a politician, he was going to represent us, with us being the minority. If all of us wouldn't lockstep together to protect each other being the minority, Judah would have become what? Extinct in the United States. So the preachers and politicians had to stand together here in America. So they say, what we going to do? Well, we can't get rid of Judah because they stick together under the atrocities that we've done against them in slavery. Let's bring in Haitians, politician families who's used to compromising their people where they come from, and have them represent and undermine Judah here in America. And then after that, after they help us get rid of Judah, then we'll just get rid of them. Here's your politicians and preachers who are nothing more than what? These people are factions with the Democrat Party. That's all they are. In those days, went out there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us, for since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. Well, they say, listen, why should we suffer with our people? Let's just go in and work against our people. At least Master will have us in the big house. Right? Then we go all the way down. It reads, the plan. The plan here, it says, amongst them, let me read it. It says, 38. insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. They're killing us like they did North American Indians. They did it with that operation years ago, using substances this time instead of a gun. And it says here, and the city was made a habitation of strangers. You killing the people who would fight for what's right according to God, only to replace them with strangers, immigrants. Her sanctuary also was laid waste like wilderness. Her feast was turned into mourning, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. This is where you get the spirit of thanksgiving since ancient times, to destroy our people every year around November, December, to celebrate the massacre of Jerusalem. They're just doing it differently under Thanksgiving today by celebrating the destruction of the North American Indians. Using our people to push the death program from amongst us. Why? Because we trust them. We think these people are for us. When God told us in the Bible to be wary, that's right, to understand about these leaders Esau would put in position over us. Politicians and preachers. 41. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote this to his whole kingdom, that all should be one. These people scared us and scared our parents and all of that, separated our families, having all of these contracts and all of that to make sure our people get the shots, folks. They use our people to do this. That was from someplace else. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to this commandment. So they decided not to follow the laws, statutes, and commandments in the Bible, and to follow the holidays set up by Esau, the white man. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion and sacrificed idols and profaned the Sabbath. Starting how many of you knew that Thanksgiving and all of that was connected to the massacre of our people, going all the way back to the 2nd century BC, where the Romans and the Gentiles celebrate a massacre in the thousands against our people from one year to year, 1 year to each year. These are the Holocaust the world should be talking about.
Yep.
And none of this would be possible if Esau couldn't use our people, a trusted face that would convince our people into the sacrifice and or massacre. What say you? It's not just about the North American Indians. It's a celebration this time of year where the Gentiles celebrate the destruction of God's people in number, in large number, in remembrance of the Antichrist spirit, Antiochus Epiphanes. Antiochus Epiphanes. Right? Same time of year, there was a massacre. Usually between mid-November and December, is the massacre. What did Antiochus do? Desecration included an altar to Zeus. Jesus is Jesus. It's Zeus. Jesus is Jesus. Christ's name wasn't and isn't Jesus.
Yep, exactly.
Including an altar to Jesus and sacrifice of a pig on the altar. When did they do this? In December. Between November and the first week of December is their celebration of massacring our people. Same thing they did during the time of Thanksgiving. It's Zeus. Included an altar to Zeus. Jesus is Jesus. It's Zeus. Jesus is Jesus. Christ's name wasn't and isn't Jesus. Including an altar to Jesus and sacrifice of massacring our altar. When did they do this? In December. Between November and the first week of December is their celebration of massacring our people. Same thing they did during the time of Thanksgiving. And then look what they rolled out in December 2020. Pfizer and Moderna were granted emergency authorization in December 2020. Who helped them roll this out and got paid to do it? Let me show you. The wicked leaders who would sell out their own country. So you know they don't care about nothing getting paid in position to sell us out. Happy Thanksgiving. And the Gentiles are laughing because we're the turkey that's getting stuffed. What say you all? I'll open it up for the next 30 minutes for those who would like to come in through Zoom, or you can text 445-888-2759. I do apologize. I'm under the weather. That's why we did a quick broadcast, poignant, to the point, to know not who to trust. The only way we get through this is to do what the Maccabean brothers did. We must align ourselves with God, follow the commandments, and understand that there is no help outside of our God and each other. These pagan churches, they're enemies of God. They're enemies against our people. Same as the politicians. I apologize. I'm a little under the weather, but I had to pull this out today. And I want to announce that I will be ready this coming Saturday as we end the feast of dedication in Detroit this coming Saturday. I can't wait to see you all. And I'm going to preserve my voice up until that time. For those who like to come in and have anything to say, if you have an opinion on what we talked about tonight, now is your opportunity to talk. Come in through Zoom, or you can text 445-888-2759, and I'll bring you in through the phone if you have something to say on this particular topic. I won't be long because I have to rest. We appreciate you all too. So it wasn't no coincidence that Operation Warp Speed to get the shots out during COVID and all that
Yep.
was during December. It's no coincidence that all of our politicians, especially those who had contracts who came from other countries, were incentivized to get our people to take the stuff. This is how their politicians would operate in Haiti. I'm looking at what's going on in Jamaica now, where the people are suffering. And now gods are called to get the stuff sent to the people that are suffering. And the politicians and others are in position saying, well, no, we can make money off of this. Let's get it and sell it to our own people instead of just giving it to them. And these are the losers that have come over here and was placed in high political positions in our neighborhoods. When is our people going to wake up? 445-888-2759 for those who like to text. I'm only going to be in for a little bit, and then
37.
something early in the week, but enough but a little cold I can get through. I'm really still on the high coming from California and all that. I wish I was there, but it was such a great time there, and I felt myself coming down with something early in the week, but there was no way that I would miss that dedication over in California. But hey, we must fight to the end, and hey, ain't up but a little cold I can get through.
Oh, praise. Yeah, look, y'all had a great time. I was watching it, man. It looked immaculate.
All right, end it there.